What do you think, Angela? Is this far more significant than what people had originally anticipated would come out of this?
I think it is. I think everyone deliberately downplayed expectations before this meeting. They said it was going to be a pull-aside, then they said it was going to be a bilateral meeting. If they talked for that long, they must have talked about substance. We hear that they've at least made an agreement on a ceasefire in Syria. I would caution that, of course, we've had agreements on ceasefires in Syria with the Russians before, and they've broken down. But I think it is significant. And I think if even when you looked at the body language of the two leaders before they went into the closed meeting, they went out of their way to be respectful towards each other, to praise each other. Putin stressing that bilateral relations are important, so are multilateral relations, which means, you know, I'm a great world leader. I'm not a regional power, as President Obama once described Russia. So, and then, of course, with President Trump saying he was honored to meet him. So both of these presidents wanted to come out of this looking like a winner, showing that they could work together.
And I want to get Dan in here as well. So, Dan, let me ask you, a tantalizing headline just crosses from Interfax, a Russian news agency, Putin telling them that they discussed cybersecurity with Trump. Do you think they talked about the U.S. election?
Let me put it this way. It will be extremely damaging to Trump if they talked for more than 2 hours and the election didn't come up. You could understand potentially in a half-hour kind of meet and greet, something without any agenda, that Trump would not necessarily have brought that up, and there's no expectation that he was going to bring that up. But if he's been talking for 2 hours and, among other things, cybersecurity was on the agenda, if the election hacking did not come up or the degree of disinformation spread by Russia during the campaign did not come up, that's going to be very damaging to Trump domestically.
You know, Dan, the one thing we tend to forget about when we talk about Trump and Russia, and we know Putin is sort of a strong leader in his own way, but the country is not strong. You've got an economy that is shrinking. You've got unemployment that is up from a couple of years ago. It's effectively a one or two commodity economy. Do you believe that in these negotiations, personal stuff aside, that Putin has any position of strength coming into this discussion?
Well, he has a few, tools up his arsenal, one of which is that Donald Trump clearly wants to have better relations with Russia. And has, we've been hearing stories for the last 6 months now about the degree to which the Trump administration wants to make concessions, whether it be the returning of compounds to the Russian Federation or some sort of accommodation on Syria as a way of somehow generating better goodwill.
No, but do you believe, Dan, that Russia
Putin
is a strong or a weak nation economically?
Economically, it's a weak nation.
How about militarily?
Militarily, they are stronger than they were 10 years ago. They've done a decent job of building up their military, and if nothing else, Vladimir Putin has demonstrated the will, if he wants to use force in the near abroad, as he defines it. So there's no question that they're more powerful militarily.
Angela, what's next? Angela, what's next?
Well, first of all, let me say, the Russian economy has turned around. It's going to be growing this year, yes. It has problems, and clearly falling oil prices and sanctions and the lack of reform have affected it badly, but it's doing better than it was before. They've weathered the worst of the crisis so far.
It's doing better because it was contracting 5%.
Yeah, and so
it was
now
in a deep recession. So anything above a contraction is, I wouldn't consider that better. It's just slightly less worse.
Their agricultural sector has, in fact, done quite well from the counter-sanctions they imposed on the Europeans. So the picture is maybe, it's not a black and white picture. And, of course, they do have the ability to project military power not only in their neighborhood, but in the Middle East.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.